What's up, Laker fans? And, well, general NBA fans, if you're not just a Lakers fan, you're all welcome here. Welcome to the latest episode of the Strive for Legacy podcast. My name is Dolos, and I got my co host, Roze, here with me today. And we are here to mainly react to last night's game, specifically the Lakers' Game 2 win against Phoenix to tie that series 1-1. It was a really exciting, phenomenal game. Roze, let me know how you're feeling about that game, too.
I'm feeling great.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy how you manifest something in the previous pod and it happens.
Yeah.
We both manifested like the most random things. I manifested Markieff minutes. You manifested Marc Gasol finally playing.
Yeah.
Both of those things happened. Markieff playing was a more surprising one, but both of that happened, and we might need to get hired by the Lakers because they won, and there's a direct correlation there. It's not just causation. So
I do
I'm
have
feeling
to
super
admit,
happy.
like, as the Gasol minutes were mixed, and we can get into that a bit later. One of my other suggestions to end last podcast was to try and trap Booker more. We saw a bit more of that in this game too, and it didn't work. So it didn't work all that well. Phoenix managed to find the right pass, make the right play out of those doubles a lot of the time. Cameron Payne, point guard general,
Oh
was
man,
a huge
that
part
was
of that. He
hilarious.
was killing us, drilling shots from deep, making the right reads, getting into the lane, penetrating. He was doing everything right. But really, I really want to start this by just saying shout out to the Phoenix fans too. That crowd was absolutely wild. Going into this series, I kind of figured, hey, the Suns have kind of been a middling franchise for a decade now. Most Suns games people tend to go to for the opposing crowd over this past decade. It's not like you've been showing up to Suns games to watch Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe and Dragon Bender. So when people go to Suns games, it's typically to watch who they're playing against. I thought that we could somewhat invade their home court advantage, and we did see Lakers jerseys during that game. There were some purple and gold fans that showed out. I was thinking maybe, like, since Phoenix is so close to LA, could we get 15 to 30% of their arena? But it doesn't seem like that's the case. The Suns fans were loud and in effect. A fun little stat from last night, because late in that game there was a "Beat LA" chant that got going.
Yes, there was.
The Suns
That made me
fans
mad,
got
and I'm
really
glad.
bold. Yeah, I literally time stamped once I heard the "Beat LA" chants, because that was around 8 minutes left in the game. The score had just got put to a 1 point deficit for Phoenix. They were behind by one. LA was at 84. Phoenix was at 83, and the game ends with a 25-19 run after those "Beat LA" chants, and we obviously take the win. So I needed to track that, see how the team would perform after that, and I think the crowd really hyped the team up. It was great to see.
Yes, it feels good to feel a certain type of emotion because of a crowd. We didn't get that last year, but having an opposing crowd make you mad is something that I haven't felt in a while, and it feels good.
Yeah, those "Beat LA" chants got under my skin, and I was really hoping the team reacted and made a run after that, which is why I just had to put down, like, the timestamp of when I heard those chants, and I'm like, let's see, let's get a reaction. And LeBron certainly reacted, because he went off
Yeah,
in that fourth
he
quarter.
looked at the crowd.
Yeah, he carried us, put us on his shoulders. Anthony Davis hit a big three to help close things out. Just great performance from our stars. Well, Anthony Davis he still had a very mixed performance, but he showed up down the stretch of the end, especially defensively. He was clamping up, and
Oh my goodness, the
it's
last
led to a Laker win.
sequence, or like there was like a 5 minute stretch. Yeah, there was like a 5 minute stretch where like the whole team just locked them up, and they had like three straight turnovers. And the defensive switches, I think I tweeted that watching the Lakers defense switch is like, it's just art.
Yeah, certainly. I've pivoted from my strategy of trapping Devin Booker. Not that I think we should completely go away from that. There were times it worked. So he's a guy that you don't want to give him just one look anyway. We shouldn't just trap every time he runs a pick and roll. We got to switch it up, and switching is one of the things that could really help. Because there was, another play in regards to switching where Caruso ended up switched out on DeAndre Ayton. And Ayton had such really good post positioning on that play. So Phoenix was almost forced to let him post up against Caruso. But Caruso was fronting and playing him really hard and trying to push him out. And then we were bringing help at all the right times to make Ayton just kick it back out. Phoenix got late in the shot clock. They were just kind of forced to really see what Ayton could do post up. They passed it back into him. He makes a move. Anthony Davis recovers and blocks him at the rim and right at the buzzer too. It was amazing. They were playing really good defense down the stretch, and that's where my faith in this team has always been. Our ability to defend on that end. I think that does kind of lead me to segue into the Gasol minutes though, because he was mixed on that end. We saw some examples of him playing up higher in ball screens, containing the ball handler, and then just trying to get back to his man. But he was getting targeted downhill when they were trying to just run at him and get to the rim. Campaign had some good looks at the rim, just driving at Gasol. Devin Booker obviously had some as well. I think he did a decent enough job when Chris Paul was involved, but Chris Paul obviously is not 100% right now. That was a huge thing to watch in this game as well, because, for me during the first half of the game, when he started a bit slow and it seemed like he was injured, and then he started to make some magic happen in the mid-range, was getting shots over us, and I'm like, okay, maybe the shoulder thing isn't all that bad. And then he's just on the bench for a really long time. He didn't play too many minutes in what was ultimately a pretty close game. Let me check his. Yeah, he played less than 23 minutes, 22 minutes.
He played a few in the fourth quarter. Yeah, his tape was super. I like the tape on his shoulder.
Yeah, clearly it was not doing enough for him. I feel for Phoenix fans that
I do for sure
isn't 100% in this series. I really would have loved to go up against Phoenix 100% because I've been confident this whole time that we could take them at 100% if we were 100%. So I know that if we do now beat them, there will be all these reasons of Chris Paul wasn't 100%, which is true, but at the same time I think we could have beat them without him. So it also really sucks from a competitive standpoint not to be able to go up against that team at 100% and say, hey, we took your best shot and we won.
Yeah, but if people want to pull that, then like AD, LeBron, and Schroeder, they're not 100%. So
I mean
it's kind of like,
I'm totally ignoring anyone that has that take anyway, because it
makes sense, but it can't. Yeah, it's
jokes
not like
were flying at our expense when we did not look healthy to end the season, and teams were saying that we wouldn't make this run and we weren't going to go back to back. So there's been some Lakers doubt because of our injury. So as much as I feel for Phoenix, if they end up losing because of Chris Paul's injury, they just try again next year.
Yeah, well, they have a good foundation. It's not like they're all 35 and they're about to retire. So
yeah,
I do feel for Chris Paul. It doesn't look like he's going to play next game. I don't know the official report, but Cam Payne he balled out, and like it was so funny because there was a point to where you're like, is putting Chris Paul in at 50% even worth taking Cam Payne out? And I know he subbed in out for Devin Booker for a little bit, but if I told you like 3 years ago that in a playoff game Cam Payne was gonna outplay Chris Paul, you would have called me crazy. But that's just how the playoffs go. There's always a performance where you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah, watching that game, I feel like Devin Booker did not play as many minutes as he ultimately ended up playing. I'm looking through the box score now. I'm surprised to see he played 40 minutes. It didn't feel like that. I felt like there was a long stretch in the fourth where he was not in, and we took advantage. But wow, he kind of had a mixed game as well.
In the first half, he wasn't. He
41%.
was most. Yeah.
Yeah, I
In
think
the
we did
first
a
half, he
good
wasn't
job
as.
defending him in the first half, but then the second half,
Then it fell off.
he
Yeah.
started to heat up. I do also want to shout out Dennis Schroeder for this game. We've had some criticisms of Schroeder since this pod started. Namely, he was returning back from that stretch where he was out due to protocol, and he did not look like he was back in condition. And I've always had my issues with Schroeder's shot selection at times, whether I think he should pass a bit more often and problems with his turnovers. But Dennis Schroeder came through for us tonight. I was making notes throughout this game, and I organized it by quarter to quarter. And there was a point in the second quarter where I had a note about the offense being very LeBron reliant, and I really wish that Dennis could give us some more juice in the half court. And then I think a minute or two after that, he starts going off in the second quarter, and he kept that lead for us because we end the first quarter and it's 30-24. I really like the defense hold Phoenix to 24 points. It could have been better. Defense always can be, but 30 points from our offense and holding them to 24. It was a good quarter for us. And then we start the second and are unable to score. There is like the first 6 minutes of the second quarter, we put up like 2 points. The offense has been bad, and we have to figure out ways to make it better during those bench stretches. And that was a time where Gasol was in, and I feel like, man, I really need him to shoot more and to not be hesitant, because I don't know if it was in the second or third, but we talked about it in chat, that one play where he just tries to make the extra pass and there's a shot clock violation.
Oh, where the clock ran out, yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't just take the open three that he had. And it's like, he's always looking for the best look, and I understand that. But man, we need you as a spacing threat. And this has been my issue with Gasol for a lot of the season, where it's like, he's a good three-point shooter. He had a elite three-point percentage this year, but he does not take a lot. Defenses know he does not take a lot, and that he does not really want to take a lot. And they'll sag off of him and let him burn you the 1 or 2 times he takes a three, because they know, like, the 5 or 7 times a game that he's out on the key open at the top, he's not even looking at the basket and they'll just pass it anyway. So you can sag off of him knowing he's not really going to take that attempt. It hurts the offense. It really does, seeing him make those extra passes. That was kind of a theme. KCP did not look to be confident at all in this game. He was
he
missing
had 0 points.
He was missing open looks. And
yeah.
There was another play where he tries to make the extra pass to Dennis Schroeder, who's a worse three-point shooter. So it doesn't make sense. KCP, you're open on the wing. Take that three. And LeBron got into him after that.
I saw
that play. Yeah, they get that on camera. LeBron's going up to him after that timeout that got called.
Too,
yeah, he was in his face. Like, I passed it to you. I want you to shoot. Just really trying to instill some confidence in KCP. You're the best three-point shooter on the team. If you're not hitting those shots, our alternative is Wesley Matthews is the first alternative, but like, if it really continues to be bad over this series, we might really have to put in Ben McLemore, who's not a great defensive player and it's probably going to get targeted by Phoenix's guards. But that might be our only option if we can't get any three-point shooting from Kenny, and we're going to need that shot falling. Hopefully going back to LA fixes those whatever issues are going on with him. I'm hoping it's more of a mental thing than a physical thing with him, and he needs to just get out of his head. Yeah, because he was off the side of the backboard on. He's had off the side of the backboard like a few times in the past couple games, so
he hits
it's
those
concerning.
PGs.
Yeah, it's concerning.
It is, but he's a streaky shooter, and once he turns that switch off, or once he turns that switch on, then be careful, because I kind of, if I'm pretty confident that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is not going to score 0 points in 31 minutes next game. I think that's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those rebound type of games that he's going to have. And, I mean, at least he's just not a shooter, like, not just a shooter. At least
Yeah.
on defense, he was certainly capable against Booker. Even Booker, it's just great offense beating great defense, but it's good to have someone to where you don't need to switch at all. And, it's it's I'm basically just trying to say that KCP is, even if he shoots like nothing at all and he had 0 points, he still had he had the most. Did he have the most plus minus? He had like 22 or something, and he literally made 0 points. He had
Yeah,
something like that.
he's always gonna play with effort. He had a plus 19 in the box score, which is a game high as I'm looking through.
Yeah,
Or
and
at least for us, yeah.
that's bonkers because, like we said, he's literally did nothing on offense, but somehow he had the most plus minus. So it's good to have that. It's good to have a player that is reliable on defense because it's pretty hard to be bad defensively as it is as a shooter. So, I'm still thankful for that, even if he can get some criticism on the offensive side.
Yeah, I know we spend a lot of time talking more about the role player performances than the superstars on the team, but these guys are what it's going to take for us to win the series. I'm confident. Like Anthony Davis was outlier bad in Game 1. After my rewatch, I don't think LeBron was as bad as I initially felt, but he certainly was not at the level of
He was
aggression, or attack that
Yeah.
we needed to get that game. Game 2, I still think he was pretty passive. I was very annoyed with a lot of possessions where he's at the top of the key and the ball just leaves his hand way too soon, and without him really even making an effort to get a good look for himself. So I think that's something I want to see improve over the course of the series and over the course of the playoffs. But Anthony Davis, let's pivot into him because before I give my take, I'm curious, what did you think of his performance tonight?
Tonight, I don't know if he plays tonight, but last.
Oh, I mean last night, yeah, got me.
Yeah, no, last night he was solid. You'd expect it. I don't think anyone expected him to repeat what he did in Game 1. He literally said to himself that you can blame it on me all you want. So you expected a rebound and nothing less because AD is that type of player, especially in the playoffs, because that game was literally his worst by a mile. His playoff numbers are ridiculous if you want to look them up.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was to be expected, but there's obviously some improvements to be made, especially on the defensive side. Andre Drummond was getting almost feasted on again by DeAndre Ayton because Ayton is a monster still. So I did like I liked how good of a closer Davis was because it seems like almost every intense game in the playoffs has been there's always been an Anthony Davis dagger. You saw it with the Nuggets with that. Then you also saw it in the finals with the Heat. And I believe in the Warriors he made a 3. The Warriors game, I might be wrong. But it seems like whenever AD is taking the shots that he excels at, especially on the perimeter, then... Because if you're thinking about it, the opponent's defense is not looking to guard AD on the perimeter, especially in clutch time. Normally, because LeBron is slashing and usually makes it at a Hall of Fame rate, but even in that game where he wasn't slashing as much, and we can probably attribute it to his ankle, that it's pretty evident that it's still bothering him. But AD, like as he was closing outside of that shot as well, he also had a awesome pick and roll action with LeBron where LeBron got on the wing, did his, I don't know if he did his little signature move where he looked down at the ball because there was no one in front of him, but he still hit the shot, and he had amazing defense towards the end. But just to keep it consistent throughout the whole game to the point, because they were up 15, if it'd be awesome if that energy was there the whole game, so it wouldn't have campaign wouldn't have the opportunity to even hit like game tying threes. That'd be awesome, and I'm sure he'll be there. So it's certainly great to see him meet the expectations of rebounding from the last game.
Yeah, I'm looking at his box score now, and I'm a bit surprised by how good it actually looks. I thought he had a mixed game, but he ends with 34 points. He was a +6 on the night. He had 10 rebounds. He had 7 assists. He had a steal, and he had 3 blocks. So, all of that at 47% from the field, and 50% he was 2 of 4 from three, on top of 18 of 21 free throws on the night. So monster numbers from Anthony Davis. I still don't really love the shot selection that he and LeBron have been going with in this series. A lot of jumpers, and I think that bails out Phoenix. I will say that Anthony Davis was more aggressive, trying to establish himself closer to the rim. That's evident in the free throw numbers. They had no answers for him at all. He was fouling out their entire front court pretty much. Jay Crowder was picking up quick fouls every time he subbed into the game. DeAndre Ayton was fouling a lot as well. Who else? They brought in Torrey Craig to pick up some fouls on him or something too. So I think Anthony Davis, whether or not he's making those shots close to the rim, his aggressiveness will put Phoenix in foul trouble, get us into the bonus early, and we're a shaky free throw shooting team, but hopefully those are points that we can cash in on and help us get to wins. I think the free throw discrepancy is something that a lot of people are going to be focused on, but I think that's just a result of Phoenix not being capable at guarding us, and that's going to lead to fouls. They just can't handle the size we have in the front court. So I think Drummond's going to get to the line. Anthony Davis is going to get to the line. If LeBron ever decides to get aggressive, he can get to the line in this series as well. He took 9 3-point attempts. He's not getting to the free throw line taking nine 3-point attempts. He took one free throw. One free throw attempt that clearly doesn't means he wasn't fouled, or no, there was an and one. I think there was an and one, and that's why he had the one free throw attempt. But we're gonna need more aggression from him. I would like to see him driving against those mismatches. ISO a guy, clear out at the top of the key, put your head down. And it is a bit difficult because they've started to zone up on him when he has the ball. Like if you lock in on LeBron when he gets the possession, they almost immediately go zone. Against Anthony Davis, they're just trying to front against him in the post. They're trying to double team, be really physical and aggressive. They're doing a good job at it, but that's going to get them in foul trouble, and we need to push the issue. If Chris Paul's in the game, he's in the game. Whether injured or healthy, we have got to go at him and really make him work defensively so he doesn't have the energy offensively. And Phoenix is clearly trying to spare him. Like the shoulder is hurting. It's a difficult thing, but you got to go at the guy. He's out there, and that is kind of a disadvantage for his team in a way, for him to be out there, because if you'll notice, they don't have him bringing the ball up because our guys will defend 94 feet. Dennis Schroeder, Alex Caruso, they're at the point of attack early, and there's just no reason to give Chris Paul that extra stress. So Campaign is bringing it up more often. Devin Booker will be bringing it up more often. We don't have that way to stress Chris Paul when he's on offense. So defensively, put him in screens, try and isolate against him, try and post up against him, make him really work for the night while he's out there in his minutes.
Yeah, like you said with Chris Paul, I guess I'll quote the old Karate Kid movie. Mm-hmm. You got to strike first, strike hard, and with no mercy, even with the shoulder injury.
Yeah, so I'm curious from your. I haven't done my rewatch of the game yet. I'm probably planning on doing that a bit later in the day. So from a coaching perspective on Phoenix's end, what do you think is their biggest counter? What are they trying to adjust in Game 3 to come out with a win?
Well, I think first of all, that's a great transition into us kind of forecasting the Game 3, but I think some counters is, Chris Paul being hurt certainly does not help because he's sort of the engine of that. And if you put Booker as the main distributor, then that's just going to wear him out because he needs a little more rest. Although campaign, I don't expect him to have the same performance as game 2. If he does, then congrats to him, because he's also doing it with a black eye. I don't know where he got a black eye, but that was super random. But I think it's quite dependent on Chris Paul's health, but I think we'll assume either he doesn't play or he plays sub 20 minutes. So if that's the case, then say you play inside out, meaning try to focus with Ayton, because what's been consistent throughout the 2 games is Ayton has been feasting. He's been barbecue chicken in the post, and so try to get a pick and roll game going with him and Booker, and then hope that your shooters in Jay Crowder, Saric maybe, Mikal Bridges, hope they're open and hit their shots, because I think they're really limited. Like you said last pod, their ceiling is super low because they just don't have as much talent as the Lakers do. So if I was to be their coach and I somehow got hired in the next days and had to fly to Los Angeles and coach them, then I would just say, focus on Ayton and Booker on the pick and roll, and that, I think, somehow, someway has to open up the shooters, and just hope they hit their shots and just play good defense. I guess it's pretty simple.
Yeah, I see what you're saying on that. I think some more pick and roll for Ayton and Booker can be helpful. There is a guy on their bench that I think if Chris Paul his minutes won't be up there, Etuan Moore might be interesting to give him some run and see what can come from that, because he is a 3-point shooter. He's a guy who can occasionally attack a closeout and make something happen at that point. There could use the additional spacing because regardless of who's out there, the Lakers will probably still occasionally trap. They'll still occasionally hedge when Devin Booker catches or tries to run pick and roll. And he's a guy that could burn the Lakers when those doubles start to come, especially since Phoenix has done such a good job of finding their shooters. Jay Crowder didn't have that great of a 3-point shooting night. He was 0 of 4 at one point, but then hits a clutch one in the corner that Alex Caruso fouls him on, so it ends up being a 4-point play. But Etuan Moore is a guy that I would, at least try and give him some run. If Chris Paul is going to be out, Monty Williams has gone to this bench, and I think this is an opportunity to try and see if there's anyone there that could give you some life. I'm searching his numbers for this season. Oh, wow, yikes! He actually was a really bad 3-point shooter for Phoenix this year. It was only on one attempt, but 31%. I would still trust a guy who has a track record and a reputation as a shooter. Regardless of the bad percentage, this year he is a 38, pretty much 39% career 3-point shooter. So give him some run, try and see what you can get. Like I said, I don't think they have that many great counters, but I think the zone will be interesting. I know we especially saw zone defense a lot last season, and then into the finals up against Miami. I think we know how to attack it well, but if you're trying to scheme for counters, it might just kind of be your best option with our shooters missing right now, and try and keep it in KCP's head that those shots aren't falling.
Yeah, it certainly helps to be in the mental. If you can get into the mental space, then you saw with although that's going to be super hard because the crowd in Phoenix was awesome for the playoff atmosphere, but it was also awesome for the players because you saw when there were streaks with them hitting 3-point shots, and the crowd went crazy, and that could backfire with LeBron and AD going crazy at the end, but it did. Those streaks of points where they come back from 15, the crowd has a huge factor into that, in my opinion. But if you can somehow try to get into the mental space of KCP, LeBron, I don't know how easy that's going to be for them, but that they're just super limited. A lot has to go right, so there's a certain expectation that the Lakers just have to meet, and it's not as high as it was for Game 2. So that's something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, playing the mental game could be something that works to Phoenix advantage here. I saw Jay Crowder after that and one 4-point play three that he had,
Oh
because
yeah,
he hit that right in front of the Lakers
he
bench. He
did.
gets up and he's talking to Trez.
He's talk-
You can see some of
yeah.
the guys on the bench are taking offense to the trash talk, and it's like, okay, like I think this has been a super fun competitive series. It's been my favorite of the playoffs, totally, because I think just the competitiveness in this series, these guys are really trying to go at each other. They're trash talking. That hasn't been there in every series, and I just think it adds an extra fun element. But to try and transition out of the Lakers specific stuff and into some more general NBA, outside of this Lakers Phoenix series, which has been my favorite, which one is the one that you're paying most attention to? We can talk about the Clippers and their massive failures so far, going down 0-2 despite home court. We could talk about how Milwaukee has been conquering their demons in Miami and took a 2-0 lead up against them, or one of the other series.
Um, we can certainly do that, but before we do get to that, do you have any final predictions for the Lakers and Suns game 3? Who's the biggest factor on both teams?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the biggest factor for Phoenix will be Devin Booker. I kind of wanted to just maybe go with like Campaign, because he'll play minutes for CP if he's still hurt, and maybe Ayton because he's been big. But Devin Booker is gonna be the best player on that team, and he was the best player on the court, period, in game 1. That helped them win.
Oh,
So
for sure.
if he can rise to that level and just beat our good defense, that's something that could really change things around and help Phoenix take the game, even if Chris Paul is a diminished version of himself. For the Lakers, I think the X factor is still going to be Anthony Davis, because we kind of rely on his aggression. His aggression opens up our attack in other areas. Same with LeBron. We don't have an offense. Our offense is simply let those guys attack, and the gravity and defensive attention that they draw as a result of their skill and their ability, that'll open up the game to everybody else. So we're going to rely on Anthony Davis's aggressiveness, and it's going to be as how far that takes us.
Okay, I can agree with a lot what you said. I do think Booker is the obvious answer for that. I mean, I'm gonna go with his sneaky one in Crowder.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if he just hits his shots, he'll be super and play some good defense. Then he'll be the factor for me. But I can't really argue Crowder over Booker, especially with their impact and different stuff. But yeah, I agree. The Lakers are set up quite nicely to play and win the game. So hopefully that does happen, and it a 2-1 advantage for the Lakers is pretty helpful, especially being down.
And we've taken
1-0
home court
and being
advantage.
That certainly does help. So yeah, you were asking me about the outside of the Lakers, because so I think my most interesting one, I mean, the Clippers and the Mavericks is interesting just because of how funny the Clippers are just blowing it. But I think last year the Clippers just got so much slander to where I'm just so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you this: do you think whether the Clippers get swept by the Mavericks or not, would that change how embarrassing? Would it be more embarrassing if they got? Does it even matter how the series goes? So let's just say the Mavericks win. Do you think it matters in how much they win by to determine whether that's more embarrassing than last year?
Oh yeah, I think if they get swept, I don't know if that's more embarrassing than last year. That is.
Yeah, I think it's more.
Yeah, it's more embarrassing
because they tanked.
Yeah,
they tanked.
Like, you tanked to get this matchup, and then you get swept. And this is a team you beat last year, and Mavericks fans have been making the claim all season that they would have won that series had Porzingis not got hurt and then got ejected from that game 1. And Clippers fans have been fighting them on that, and this was your chance to prove that and shut Mavericks fans up, and then they get swept. So then now not only Lakers fans who will be trash talking them, you have the
Oh, for
Nuggets
sure.
fans who are still trash talking them about a blown 3-1 lead. And on top of that, Mavericks fans will have a lot more ammo to go at you too. So at that point, just move the Clippers to Seattle, in my opinion. But
Yes, thank you. They're cursed.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
cursed.
this is not a good look for the Clippers, and we can start there because, like you said, they tanked for this matchup. They ducked smoke from the Lakers. They ducked smoke from Portland. And to me, ducking smoke from Portland is ridiculous. I understand not wanting to play the Lakers, but ducking Portland, they have no one to defend your wings. Like, it would just be Robert Covington, and like maybe they're forced to play Derrick Jones Jr. and then he messes up their offense.
Derrick Jones.
So that team is the one you wanted to duck. I get the whole Damian Lillard thing, but wow, you have at least solid guard defenders. You have Patrick Beverly, who is still a solid guard defender. You have Rajon Rondo, playoff Rondo, our guy, who could then come in and take a matchup against Damian Lillard. He at least has the IQ for that matchup. We saw him perform well in that matchup when he was in New Orleans and they swept Portland. Man,
Yeah,
this was...
with Drew.
I really hate this for my guy Ty Lue because, he was that 2016 head coach for Cleveland. He's my guy. He was part of that 3-1 comeback for the Cavs. So I kind of wish the best for him, but at the same time, he's a Clippers head coach now, so I can't wish too good for him. But man, this down, and you had home court, and now you're going to Dallas for 2 games. These are must-win games. These are must-win games. You don't want to go down 3-1. You definitely...
Or 3-0.
Yeah, you don't want to go down 3-0. Like, you need both of these games.
You do, and I just don't know how that was gonna go because I legitimately thought the Clippers were. I don't know what even convinced me because last year I was super high on the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
Then they didn't let me down. I was happy they lost because they're the Clippers, but I also felt this year that they were better than last year. But evidently that's the opposite. So, I mean, super far prediction.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say Kawhi stays if they do lose in the first round? I think he does.
Yeah, I think he stays just because...
For 2 years.
Yeah.
For 2 years, though.
He came here for other personal reasons outside of basketball. If he cared about stacking the deck like a whole lot and just being a part of a super team, he would have came to the Lakers when he had the opportunity to join up with LeBron. And if he...
That would have been terrible.
If he wanted to just stay in Toronto, he could have been competitive in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think they would have made the finals last year.
I think clearly he did not want to be in that market for personal reasons. He wanted to be in
taxes
LA.
are high,
and then
super cold.
For whatever Kawhi reasons, he wanted to be on the Clippers over the Lakers. I don't...
Uncle Dennis.
Yeah, I don't know what changes after 2 years. I mean, there are the playoff disappointments, but if you still want to be in LA, then I don't see that much of a path for getting to the Lakers now, and it would kind of be an embarrassing hit to his brand to then flip sides and join the Lakers after he couldn't get it done with the Clippers. That'll take a hit to your legacy. Not that Kawhi might not care about that stuff, but I think that'll at least get narrative stuff around him going. You might just be forced to stick it out with the Clippers, and hey, at the end of the day, you getting home cooking and can show up whenever you want because the team planes and buses don't leave without you.
Yeah, I think Kawhi. I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think he's truly striving for rings like many other players. I wouldn't say he's satisfied because then he wouldn't be balling out like he has for the past 2 years. He's been really good outside of the Game 7 against the Nuggets. He's been Kawhi, but
yeah.
I do think I don't know how hard or how much of his desire to win would be, but I've seen a lot of Warriors photoshops. I've seen a lot of Heat photoshops. Him going back to Toronto would be hilarious, but I think it's too little too late to do that. But, I do want to see Uncle Dennis back in action in free agency. That was a hilarious time to be alive.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I mean, I've been thinking over the whole return to Toronto thing. Also, would like to point out that New York has max space and they look good. I think they're a wild card in this. There's always the speculation of, oh, is X superstar going to the Knicks, but I think they
It's
kind of have
legit
a
now.
legit
Yeah.
shot now. I mean, they have max space. Maybe bring in Kyle Lowry as well, reunite that duo, and I don't know if they'd have to part with Julius Randle in that situation. I don't know their cap dynamics,
I
but
don't think
even
they need
still,
to.
they have R.J. Barrett likely still there. He's pretty good young wing developing there, and then to start Kyle Lowry, R.J. Barrett, and then Kawhi at the three is pretty nice. Keep Nerlens Noel there. He's had a solid defensive year. Mitchell Robinson. That's a decent enough team in the East to get my interest. I don't think they're better than the top end teams like Brooklyn, but that's an exciting team to have in the Garden.
Yeah, but enough of Kawhi talk. We don't need to talk about a
Facts,
Clipper
yeah.
for that long.
Yeah, we're talking about the playoffs. We can transition this into a
Yeah,
few of
so
these
to wrap
other
it up,
series. Yeah.
yeah, to wrap it up with a little bit of a shorter pod. I'm gonna play the same game we did last time, where you basically tell me your prediction and the biggest factor, but this time you get 2 words
Okay.
to describe why they would win that. Okay, so we're going baby steps here, going a little higher every time, and then hopefully by the finals, maybe a whole sentence or two will be there.
Okay.
So
all
starting
right.
off today, as of recording, it is the Wizards and the 76ers for Game 2.
Okay. In that game, X factor. Well, winner is going to be the Sixers. Their X factor will be Joel Embiid. Unguardable post player. It's 3 words, but so what?
We'll count it. We'll count it. We'll count it. That's fine. So for Game 2, I do think this series is going to be super entertaining. Not the one we just talked about, but the one I'm about to mention. The Hawks and the Knicks, second time in the Garden. And the whole Trey thing has been, I don't know, it's still news now. There's been, like, even the mayor, de Blasio or something, even he's talking about Trey Young. I don't know if that's just for political purposes to get votes or something, but like when the mayor's talking about you, that just seems a little too much, in my opinion. But who do you have in Game 2 at the Garden?
Game 2, I've got New York taking it, and the X Factor player will be Julius Randle, because he'll be having a bounce back. My 2 words are bounce back.
Okay. So for Game 2 of the Grizzlies and the Jazz series, it is at 9 o'clock for Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern. That's also an interesting series. The team names don't pop out, but if you just disregard that, then Game 1 was super entertaining, and Donovan Mitchell should be back. But who do you have for that? I'm interested to see who you do have.
So for this game, I have Utah winning this, and I think their X Factor player will be Mitchell since he's returning. Just being back. My words.
Okay, that's great. So for the third game of the Bucks and the Heat, that's the first Game 3. That is today's Wednesday, right? Yeah, today's Wednesday. I'm losing track of time here. But tomorrow is Thursday, and it is at 6:30 Central Time. It is the Bucks at the Heat. The Heat are down 2-0, and they got destroyed in Game 2. So who do you have? Do you have the Bucks going up 3-0, or do you have the Heat trying to make a comeback?
I've got the Bucks. And the key reason will be Giannis Antetokounmpo, and the reason will be because he's still an MVP. So, my words on that.
Technically, he's still the MVP of the league until Jokic gets crowned that.
Reigning MVP, and he put that on display last game.
Yep. Also, is the shooting sleeve accessory, or did he mess up his arm?
So he did. There was like a play where his arm got kind of grabbed. It seems like there's some pain So I think the shooting sleeve was added after the fact. He like went back to the trainers or something, and they were the one that gave him that. So I don't think it's an
Oh, he flexed
accessory.
his arm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he might have it probably to the end of the series. See how his arm heals.
I mean, it looks good, so
Mm.
kind of ironic to have a shooting sleeve on Giannis, but for the we already said for Game 3 of the Suns and Lakers, which is at 9 o'clock on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So there's there's Game 3 to wrap the last three. Oh yeah, there's 4 Game 3s. Who do you have for well, no, because we're not going to repeat the Knicks and the Hawks for Game 3. So for Game 3 of the Nuggets and the Trailblazers, it's tied 1-1, and it is at Portland this time. So who do you have for that game?
I have.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, this series has been super difficult for me because I've been wrong like each game. I thought the Nuggets would win in that game one, Portland won. Then I thought Portland would take game 2, and Nuggets took that one. So whatever I predict is probably just going to be wrong. So I'm going to reverse psychology and pick the Nuggets in this one. Their X factor on this will be Michael Porter Jr. And the reason will be because he takes shots on the basketball court only.
Yeah.
He takes shots.
Okay, takes shots. Okay. So we already said Knicks Hawks for Game 2. So for the Nets and the Celtics Game 3, that is Friday, May the 28th at 30 minutes past 7. I mean, this is probably the worst series out of all of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Can we mercy rule this series? I didn't even watch.
Yeah, we
game
can just
2,
stop
to
it
be
right
honest. I wanted to put it on, but then I'm like, I don't really care.
Blake Griffin is back, I guess. Yeah, Blake Griffin dunked like twice in under a minute, so
yeah.
We were all lied to. We were hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray. All of those words. Shout out to Stephen A.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna talk about that series. We're just gonna skip it. So for the last game, it is the Clippers and the Mavericks. It is at Dallas. It just feels weird now that they're down 2-0. But regardless, who do you have for that game?
I don't think they're gonna get swept. Just like you, I've been wrong about the Clippers this entire time. I believed in them last year. I thought they were a pretty good team. They showed not to be. I thought they were even better this season. They're looking worse and more embarrassing. But I can't bring myself to think they're getting swept. So I think they will take.
That'd be
game
hilarious.
3.
That'd be so funny.
I think they'll take game 3, and I think the reason I'm gonna go ahead and bank on Kawhi this time. I said Paul George last time, and then, well, they went down.
He was all right. He does get. I think the memes they're still funny because we're Lakers fans, but like if we're being honest with ourselves, he has been playing up to par throughout the playoffs so far.
Yeah, and even that game one where he had Pandemic P trending in like 10 minutes. He started off. Yeah, he was like 1 of 7. He was terrible, but then he like cleaned up his box score numbers a bit. Was good for them down the stretch. So he does get a bit overhated.
At some point, one of them is. Yeah, for sure. But it's funny.
Yeah.
But at some point, either him or Kawhi are gonna have to guard Luka because you can't just have guards switching on to them. You can't just have Reggie Jackson and Patrick Beverly guarding him. I mean, you saw Luka say to Patrick Beverly, he's too small. Yeah. And he's not wrong. So, yeah, I guess that about does it for the podcast. Those were Dolos' predictions. I would only disagree with the Nuggets one. I have the Nuggets on that one. The Celtics, I have them coming back and winning 4 in a row. I do have the... I'm just playing. That's a lie. I do have the... I have the Heat winning... Oh, my phone just fell. I have the Heat winning... I just think at some point they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win the series anymore. Did you go with the Knicks? I think you did go with the Knicks, right?
Yeah, I went with the Knicks.
I'm going to go with the Hawks, and I'm going to go with the Grizzlies. So I'm going to go with the 76ers. So that about does it for today's podcast. We don't know what the next week is going to be like because I will be on vacay, finally. It's been a long, long year, but I will get some rest. I'm not going to miss the game, so we'll just see how that goes. So make sure to tune in. If you did make it this far, you're awesome. And to show some support, make sure to leave 5 stars or leave a good review on whichever platform you're on. And also, I'm trying to see why this isn't on Apple Podcasts. I'm going to get that resolved sooner or later. It's a weird process with podcasts, but regardless, thank you for listening. Do you have any closing words, Dolos?
The only closing words: follow us all on social media. You can find me on Twitter at LineLayup. Also follow the podcast at Legacy Strive. Make sure you follow Roze as well. He is a good Twitter follow at Roze on YT.
Yes, and by the time I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna say, for those of you who know me from my long ago YouTube game, then June 1st to mark the date. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank you for listening. Bye.